partnership with government and civil society organizations. But who are the civil society organizations then? Who are the ones that you're supposed to talk to? Because you can't talk to everybody. I mean, that's impossible. Civil society organizations used to be called the Don Quixotes, of the world, thinking that, they were running out fighting windmills and not really achieving much. However, a lot of researchers, especially Mats Carlson, has indicated that civil society organizations, they gave women the vote. They managed to change a lot of things in society. And they are organizations which emphasize, which are loudspeakers for the voice of the individual. And in many cases, they sometimes are emotional, reactory organizations, one issue, very specific, and we have to look and see which organization is legitimate. Is EBBF a legitimate organization for business who want to, work according to spiritual principles? Is IEF a civil society organization which actually can help to contribute to sustainable development? Well, we have to look carefully and then support and assist. And the important thing here is that civil society organizations need to be considered a supplement, not an alternative to political involvement for legislation. We've got another step on the ladder here of our rainbow leading to utopia. And I mentioned before that we have to work on expanding the knowledge and abilities of individuals. And I could talk for hours about education, but I won't. And this is just a very quick, I only have 5 more minutes, so a very quick little look. But Kofi Annan said recently that when looking at the Millennium Goals, that we have achieved a great deal of prosperity in the world, but we have a decade behind us of half-hearted endeavors, lost initiatives, lost effort, and we have an enormous task ahead of us to translate abstract ideas into concrete activities. And in education, if we want to go home from this conference with a few points in mind, I would strongly recommend that we remember that education and research is about processes and systems. We have to understand how things happen. That's what we've been doing all weekend. We've been looking at processes and systems. We need to understand and stimulate foresight and consequence analysis. Young people need to realize that they have to think about tomorrow, not just today. We have to test alternative scenarios. We have to develop creativity in kids, because the solutions we've got are not going to be the solutions that are going to work tomorrow. And this we know from experience, that we have to have new solutions to the new questions and new challenges that are coming up. We also have to galvanize social involvement. This is what EBBF is doing with ISEC. We have to do it in all our arena in terms of education. This is a challenge teachers have. Being a teacher isn't an easy task. Being a parent who teaches their kids is not an easy task. As you do, we have to encourage innovation and a new work ethic. We have to teach controversial issues. But how do we do that? The whole law says that conflict is an element that reflects the material society we live in. However, we know that taking controversial issues can be done without necessarily engaging in conflict. We can develop dialogue and discussion in order to make issues which are difficult and painful and unpleasant easier to handle, easier to deal with. Yep, this was the frustration, handling frustration of not having enough time, but we have to look at the individual. We talked about that. We had a really interesting workshop yesterday, and I think we could sum up some of the aspects of how the individual can contribute to questions of growth, defining and measuring and achieving growth and prosperity by emphasizing the fact that we as individuals need to become better at articulating our vision. We have to know how to say things. We have to know how to talk about this at the dinner table with our friends, with our neighbors, with our employees, with our colleagues. We need to increase our awareness. And that has to do with priorities. I mean, if you ask a college student today, as I do often in my surveys at work, how much time have you spent listening to music, watching TV, etc., then the answer is, in general, a much larger percentage of time and energy goes to entertainment than goes to gaining any other kind of insight or doing any other kind of service. I'm not saying this is overall, but there's an overwhelming percentage of that. And there are statistics that support that. How can we encourage awareness and make information interesting to people so that they want to know more? Critical reflection, daring to say, do I really need that SUV? We talked about here so many times. Do we really need 3 pairs of pants in order to get that girlfriend or that boyfriend? The global civic spirit, a servitude, a culture of caring. We could use hours to discuss that. It's interesting because, again, in Japan I found a document written by a survey written by the government in Japan, which had asked how much Japanese people were interested in participating more and service to their community. And it was an enormous number of people who had a desire, growing desire, in the last 10 years to participate in society and serve their fellow man in their communities. And you wonder why. The trouble was they didn't feel they had the opportunity. So we have to help and work on developing the ability to find opportunities to serve. And then as a final comment here about the individual, I think I would like to add that personal indicators of responsible lifestyle are terribly important. We've talked about indicators for business. There was a workshop that worked on spiritual indicators. When we all go home, I think the important thing is that we sit down and we scratch our heads and we say, what's an indicator for me for personal, sustainable lifestyle? Can I do a little bit different than what I did before, and why? There are a lot of pitfalls involved in this. Oh yeah, okay. Greater commitment and involvement didn't come in there, but we know that that's what we're talking about here. I think I'll hop on to the next one, which says what some of the pitfalls are. I think the worst and the most dangerous pitfall is loss of vision. But if we think we can go, as I mentioned before, from point A to point B without experiments, without trying to make an effort and then discover, well, maybe it didn't work, if we can't be honest, as the former speaker said, and provide truthful facts that we didn't do it, it didn't work, then we are not going to achieve the kind of progress that we're looking for. And we want to be careful not to destroy diversity. So what are the benefits of all this? Easily said. The benefits are frank and critical consultation, better policy coherence on all levels, shorter distances to decision makers and earlier decisions, more streamlined opportunities to influence. That's what we get from working on these levels and connecting these initiatives. We get greater social and market resilience to unexpected events. I think it's Sylvia's